Karima Brown on 702. Weekdays, 8 to 10 p.m.
Welcome to the first ANC presidential town hall discussion, where you will, of course, have the opportunity to engage and debate with all of those who believe they can lead the African National Congress. What a historic occasion. It's just gone 6 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is, of course, the Karima Brown Show. You are listening to 702, and we are bringing you, for the first time in history, the first of our 7 presidential hopefuls who are running for the president position in the governing African National Congress. You can hear the show on 702 if you're in the Johannesburg area on the regular dial, and you can, of course, join me via live stream, via internet, and by listening to 702 on DSTV on channel 856, or you can connect with us via our WhatsApp line, and that's, of course, on 072 702 1702, and you can call us. We're going to be taking calls from those of you who are listening who couldn't make it to our studios. The number to dial 011 883 0702. You get to ask Minister Sisulu why she wants to lead the African National Congress. You can also, of course, SMS me on 31702. Now, for those of you who are not with us at Prime Media Place in Gwendolyn, Sandown, Sandton, I am joined by a packed studio of supporters of Minister Sisulu, and of course our invited guests. Among the people in the audience, we have Steve Mabona, the Gauteng Education Department. We've got Paul Molloy from Telkom. We have got Faith Seletsela from the GCIS. We've got Sandile Shongwe, also from GCIS. And then we've got some really interesting people representing some important sectors. We've got Mahlengi Bengu, former Youth Commission chairperson, the first black female youth commissioner, and then we've also got Dr. Sibongile Vilakazi, lecturer at the Wits Business School and consulting specialist at Alexander Forbes. And of course, all importantly, we've got 702 landers who have made a special effort to RSVP and to come through to engage with our candidate. And as I said, quite historic, the first of 7 candidates, hopefully. So I am going to waste no more time. Minister, your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Karima, and thank you to your listeners, and good evening to everybody in the room. I wanted to find out why you would have made me the guinea pig of this program. I did wonder whether I should say yes or no, and I debated with myself on this matter, and I thought, let me give it a go, because it's quite a difficult space to be in. In the ANC, we don't campaign. It is just very uncharacteristic of the ANC, and we are thrust in a situation where we have more than 2 contenders for the job. And therefore, we're thrown in a situation where we've got to move with the times and almost be in a campaign mood, which has, for us, which is a new terrain and has quite negative consequences. But I'm here, and I'm glad that you invited all of us.
Trailblazer, pioneer.
Trailblazer. But I did think for a while that it would be important that perhaps we could all be on the same stage, and questions posed by the general public to all of us to respond to. I want to preface my discussion with you, because I know you want to find out what it is, why I'm standing, what it is I'm standing for, to say that we will be focusing on the ANC. We will be focusing also on what my plans might be for the nation if in the event I am successful. But I wanted to preface this by saying that, South Africa has notched up incredible strides since 1994. We promised our people a better life. And what we have given them is as close to what it was possible at the particular time. Of course, we've had glitches along the way. And in any history, it is largely the glitches that seem to be that occupy a prominent place. But I want everybody to understand that we in the ANC have worked very hard to ensure that all of us are here. We have worked very hard to provide the essential services that we have provided. In the recent surveys that we've had, both internationally and locally, we've been able to indicate what has been achieved by the government from Nelson Mandela to now. Goldman Sachs has done a wonderful job of recording what has been done. And I must say that International Race Relations has done an excellent job of recording what has been done in human settlements, but that's an aside. But I'm here, and you want to know why I am standing. I'm standing because I've come to a point where I've realized that we are at a crossroads. I've come to a point where I've realized that we are just about to repeat what we had in Polokwane. We are going through a very difficult time within the ANC. The factions within the ANC are almost identical in their palpability to those which we had in Polokwane. And it is not good for the ANC. It's not good for our democracy. It is not good for the general public. After a long time of persuasion, I have agreed to be in this position and contest to the position of presidency. I wanted to say to you, Karima, the first time that these overtures were made to me, I was asked to be Karima Motlante's deputy as acting deputy president. And then the first piece that was written was by yourself. And the comments were so negative.
I said of little clout, and I got a letter back.
No, did I write to you? I would have. No, it was something like, oh, and they think she is so arrogant. And I thought, oh, that's a melting point. Yes, but it's something that has come up from time to time, and finally, I have thought that it is the time where we give the ANC the choice that we have. We're a class of people that are now contesting this election that more or less joined the ANC in our teenage years. And that just goes to show what it is that the ANC is able to produce. I'm not very worried that there are 7 or 10 of us. It just shows the level of democracy that we have achieved. And I stand on the platform to promote the renewal of the ANC, to promote a new activism, and ensure that in this activism I can take advantage of the youthfulness of our society. We have a very youthful society, and therefore we need to renew our messaging in line with their own, so that it resonates with them. This particular activism can be divided, in my view, into 3. First, the establishment of a political, socio-economic agenda that addresses inequality in our society. We still live with the inequality that we inherited, in most cases more pronounced than in others. We still have a challenge of racism. We have a serious challenge of those patriarchal ideas that still linger behind every man there is there, or second, third man there is there. And also I want to stand on the out-of-box thinking, contemporary way of doing things. We've been so glued to the way that we've done things. There's got to be a meeting of a branch, and everybody has got to be in the branch, and we've got to discuss certain matters. Technology has made things much easier. We could take advantage of technology. I don't see why we would not create a particular platform for ANC branches to discuss through chat rooms, etc., make it easier. Thirdly, I'm wanting to find ways, in a more palpable way, to take in the anger of our people. because there is a great deal of anger against us as the ANC for reasons which we will discuss as we go along.
All right, thank you so very much for that opening statement. It's just gone 8:15. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to be asking the Minister what skill sets she believes will qualify her to make her President of the African National Congress. Do stay tuned.
In the last 24 hours, what's happened in your world?
Shots were fired at around 9 o'clock last night, but before residents could do anything, both rondavels had been set alight. In the first house, a mother and her 4 children were gunned down before their home was torched. Just a few moments later, the second family home was also targeted, where a woman and her 3 children were
What is
attacked.
the mood amongst the cabinet ministers, especially in view of the allegations, not even allegations, but rumors that there may be another cabinet reshuffle? We saw Dr. Nkosazana being sworn in Parliament sometime earlier today. What's the mood? Are you worried about your jobs?
No, I mean, there have been so many reshuffles that I think it's become part and parcel of, is it me? If it's me, where am I going to? No, I don't think any minister is worried any longer. Maybe in Madiba's time, ministers would have been very, very worried because it would not have been a norm. It's become a new normal now. Yeah. There has been so many reshuffles in President Zuma's time that could happen to anybody.
Is that a good thing?
Pardon?
Is that a good thing?
No, actually, I don't think so. But I think it is his prerogative. He has a right to hire and fire, and it is his right to do so. The fact that it might not be a good thing has to do, for me, with continuity in governance, the impact on government, not the individual. The individual is there to serve, and when they're no longer needed, of course, they would need to give way. But I worry from time to time about the impact on governance.
Perhaps the impact on the economy as well. The last one.
The impact on the economy, yeah.
Mind-opening insights. #702 Town Hall.
You are, of course, listening to 702. This is the Karima Brown Show. For those of you who are following us in Twitter land, we are using the hashtag 702 Town Hall. And, of course, you can send me a WhatsApp message on 072 702 1702. Minister, before the break, you explained to me that it's not the culture in the ANC for people to campaign. You have to be asked to serve. You've explained that you want to take up this challenge because you have been asked before. But I want to ask you, what are the particular skills that you have had over this period of democracy, of serving both in the African National Congress and in the government, that you think equips you to become the President of the African National Congress?
Okay, if you'd allow me to add on to it's skill and traits, character traits. What is it that I bring along as a candidate? One, I bring along a wealth of experience from working in government and in the ANC. Secondly, I bring that experience with me from government. I've been in government since 1996. Before that, I served in the interim government in the Transitional Executive Council. And my particular responsibility was the Sub-Council on Intelligence to make sure that that election, which was very tenuous, does run. I bring my utter commitment to the ANC. I believe that I have a plan to return the ANC and the country back to its glory, which is what we had in 1994 and going onwards. I bring my determination to live up to what it is that we've been fighting for. I have given all my life to the ANC. I want to make sure that the rest of my life I can give in making sure that that project is completed.
I'm not doubting your commitment. I don't think anybody does. Your history in the liberation struggle speaks for itself. You've held the position of public, Minister of Public Administration. You've been the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. You've been the Minister of Intelligence. You've been the Deputy Minister for the Department of Home Affairs, and of course, you are the current Minister of Human Settlements. Now, we obviously need to look at your track records. Let's take, for example, just military veterans. Just last night, I had a caller who called in just after Spiwe Nyanda, the former SANDF head, spoke about the MK Council meeting that's going to be happening, pleading for someone to assist both his brother and his cousin who served in MK and have still not received a cent. You were in that ministry. Why did you not make sure that those who served in MK actually got their military pensions? Why are people still in 2017 begging?
That we need to create of military veterans. We lobbied everybody. We put it on our recommendations. We made sure there was a resolution. So we were driven because we cared. Finally, when I was Minister of Today, we are looking after our military veterans. They do have services. Of course, we may not have all of them because the necessary data that determines who's a military veteran and who's not is still something that we do not have.
Absolutely, Minister, which brings me to the point of the fact that there is going to be an MK Council gathering.
Yes.
Now, we know that the MK Council is pushing for a re-look at the MKVA endorsed it. Are you going to be among the 100 and, or rather 1,800 members at the council over the next 2 days?
Yes, the first time that we had a council, I went there. It was electric. We were all there, and catching up on what we have done, what we haven't done, and it's a place I call home. That's where my heart is. That's where my heart has always been. Those are the people I grew up with. I will be there. Now, it was unfortunate that there seems to have been a miscommunication or communication breakdown between the MKMVA and the Military Council. The understanding that was given to us at the Military Council was that there had been discussions with MKMVA, that we would have to have a unified military veterans that represents all of us.
Last
and there would
night,
be fresh elections.
Last night, General Spiro Nyanda said that they're meeting with Gwede Mantashe today,
Yes.
Because this matter was meant to be discussed at the
Yes.
NEC.
Yes.
We will obviously welcome it if MK Council people can call into the program and give us an update of where those discussions are at. But essentially, MK is divided, deeply, deeply divided. But we'll park that. I'm going to throw the...
Actually, I don't think so. I think that there is a section of MK which is using the institution of being MK for other reasons than making sure that we can provide the welfare of all MK soldiers.
Who exactly are you referring to,
I'm
Minister?
I'm not sure who it is, but I do know that the reason why we have MKMVA is to look after our soldiers. And therefore, we would need to be as broad and as comprehensive as possible. Discussions were held with MKMVA. We were assured of that. And if I were in MKMVA or leading MKMVA, I would want to make sure that our programs are as inclusive as possible. I would not want to close my door on anybody.
So why did the President go to an MKVA conference that was so clearly seen as fraudulent by many people who actually made up Umkhonto we Sizwe?
I have no idea. I have not asked him.
Minister, we're going to leave the question of MK there, but of course, this is an important constituency in the African National Congress. And just to remind listeners, this is, of course, a debate about the candidates that wants to lead the African National Congress. So the concerns of the veterans are integral to any attempt to recalibrate this organization. Their well-being is an essential part of whether the ANC can reconnect with its mass base. It's coming up for 27 minutes past 8. You are listening to the Karima Brown Show. This is, of course, our first town hall meeting. I'm having with me in studio with a live audience Minister Sisulu, Lindiwe Sisulu. She is the Human Settlements Minister. She has put up her hand and accepted nomination to stand for the presidency. We're going to be taking a couple of questions from the floor. Can I get an indication? The gentleman with the black jacket, can you introduce yourself, please?
Evening, Karima. Now Mamkina. Nandile Tabata from the Eastern Cape, working in Joburg, candidate attorney at one of the firms in Joburg. My question is, Mamkina, how do you reconcile renewal, which is a must, and unity? Because there's a deep sense of mistrust and inability to modernize within the ANC. I don't know where it stems from. So, thanks.
All right. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bunch of three, and then I'll remind Minister the order of the questions, and we'll get the Minister to answer. Can I have the second question, please? At the back.
Hi, Minister Amlungani. On your opening statement, you said there have been glitches to the road here. What glitches do you feel that you're most equipped to attack first?
All right. Can we have the last question?
I didn't get
Good evening to the hall at large. I am Alwani Chokwe, a UJ student and a member of civil society. Ma'am Sisulu, you spoke about changing the political socio-economic agenda, which is obviously inclusive of radical economic transformation. Don't you think it should be pioneered by young people as drivers of the economy and concurrently be contesting presidency as we want to advocate for the NDR as well? Thank you.
All right, some excellent questions, of course, there from our live audience. Those of you who want to join the conversation via telephone, please call me on the Johannesburg number 011-883-0702. You can also SMS us on 31702 and that WhatsApp number 072-702-1702. Minister, just to help you with the question.
Yes.
First question, of course, from the Eastern Cape. How do you match this renewal, the push for renewal, with unity? Are they, bumping up against each other?
No, not at all. In fact, I indicated to you right from the outset that one of the reasons that actually was a determining factor was to see us going down the path we traveled in Polokwane. And I realized that it won't work. And I agreed to stand if only those who did not want a divisive or divided ANC would align themselves with with myself. So I am all for unity, and the must campaign is one that actually includes unity.
Minister, hold that thought right there. We've got to pay the bills. When we come back, I'm going to ask you what exactly you mean by unity and whether unity at all costs is actually going to be in the long-term interest of the African National Congress. Don't go away.
The Midday Report.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes for this spot. So we
merits of that. Do you think that state resources are being used to fight political battles, and do you think there are dirty tricks at play right now?
Well, I haven't spoken to the Deputy President. I haven't gone into the details of what is true and not true in that. But just from anybody's perspective, that is part of dirty tricks. Why would it matter now what kind of man he is when it didn't matter when he was chosen as Deputy President? If he had that problem, it should have surfaced a long time ago. It is surfacing now precisely because he has to be stopped or whatever. And, every time I talk to journalists, they say, are you not worried it's coming your way?
Yes.
No, I'm not worried. I mean, whatever it is that they throw at my face will not stick. I'm not worried at all. If by any chance, there are any concerns about the conduct or the ethics or the character of any individual, the ANC is there. Those concerns can be raised with there is an electoral college, people who do the screening. And so that can be raised with them, that, we think that maybe the Deputy President has a problem here, we would like you to look at that. Maybe somebody else has a problem here, we would like to look at that. So there will be a time for people to lodge their own concerns if they are so eager to do so, or if they feel very driven to do so, just, because they feel that it is wrong.
#702 Town Hall.
And of course, it's coming up for 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. How the time flies. My guest, of course, the presidential hopeful, Lindiwe Sisulu. Minister, the question on the table, of course, before we went to the break, was about whether you're going to have unity at all costs. And this becomes important because there seems to be two contrasting traditions or political styles that are emerging in the African National Congress. One which is consistent with the African National Congress of Nelson Mandela and those who have come before us, those who have gifted us our constitution, and of course the African National Congress associated with state capture. How are you going to unite what seems to be irreconcilable?
Okay, I was going to deal with that a little later on when you asked me what it is that you thought I would have thought I would contribute. But it is not going to be unity at all costs. We're not going to grab them by the throat and force them to it. But the essence of what makes the ANC historically what it is was that we took a decision that we're going to be united in our diversity, and that was the only way we would overcome apartheid. That unity is very central to ourselves, it is very central to the culture of the ANC, and we would still want to retain that. We would want to retain it to make sure that by the time we give over the ANC to that young lady there, Chokwe, it is a united ANC. It is one that has overcome some of the glitches, which I will come to right now, like state capture. I was going to indicate to you that the must campaign is made up of the letters Mandela, with you in between. You are in there. It's important that you are in there, and the other stalwarts of our period, and ending with Tambo, and the other one is, we can skip the other one. But essentially, the must says everything that I would want. We must right now change the ANC to take it back to its, to its original traditions. We must take up the baton and make sure that we give it over intact as a way. We must do all of these things. We must say no to state capture. We must say no to corruption.
That's
we
fantastic, Minister. That's fantastic. That's your intent. The
Yes.
reality, of course, is that you have the ANC being taken to court by its own members. You have the ANC at war with itself, killing its own members. Just a few days ago, we had another councillor shot in the Harigwala region in KwaZulu-Natal. How practically are you going to overcome factionalism?
Actually, we must overcome factionalism because it is factionalism that is driving people to kill other people. There was no killing of each other when we were in exile. We differed vehemently. There was no killing of each other up until very recently. The only killing that we actually experienced on this level was when we came back and there was, what was called by the Boers black-on-black violence, either in the townships or in KwaZulu-Natal, which generally was engineered by them to create the kind of chaos that was rampant at that particular time. I think that the ANC needs to find itself, and inside the ANC, you will not find factionalism. Inside the ANC, you will not find...
So who is this organization that we're seeing at war with itself then?
This is an ANC that has hit a glitch. This is the ANC that we must correct.
Some people say an iceberg, not a glitch.
Well, yes, an iceberg. And I wanted to say to you too, it's not a presidential hopeful Karima, it's just a candidate. Okay, so now we're done with correcting each other. Yes, we have hit an iceberg, which is a terrible iceberg. And every day you get a newspaper and you think, oh God, not again. You have KPMG now, something that we actually looked up to. Audit firms are supposed to be an insurance company for everything going right, and the next thing is something else.
Should they go to jail, Minister?
Well, yes. You see, if you calculate the amount of money that is being abused and misused, imagine how many houses we would have built. We would not have a backlog. That person that you're talking about, that war veteran that is looking for help, would not be looking for help because they would have something in their hand. The social welfare network would have got to them. This is our money that is being abused in whichever way it is being abused. And it is wrong. It cannot go on, and it should not go on. And we're not going to be vindictive. We don't want to be vindictive, but there must be a process that is fair at which everybody who is implicated will have the opportunity to say what it is that their role was, and in fact be able to clear their names if they're not guilty. But those who are found guilty, I have said over and over, they must pay. They must pay.
Minister, does that include President Jacob Zuma, who has spent his entire time in office trying to prevent himself from getting to a court of law, which is the only place where his guilt or innocence can be determined? Does that include him? What should happen to him?
I have heard him even before saying, I am waiting for my day in court. I don't remember him saying he would not go to court. He has gone to court on several occasions. Even now, if we have a transparent process that everybody can buy into, I am certain that he will find his way there to explain his role or explain either his culpability or his innocence. And he will do that.
And what about members of the NEC that have been implicated? You said at the policy conference that everybody implicated in state capture should, in the event that they've done wrong, they should be charged, they should face criminal charges. But we have a criminal justice system that sits on its hands. You are the Minister for Intelligence. Every day there are complaints that intelligence structures are used for political and factional purposes. What kind of ministry did you leave where that is so easily doable in 2017?
Okay. I was Minister of Intelligence, possibly the first minister after Minister Nhlanhla had a stroke and unfortunately could not continue. And I presided over the proudest time of my life. Intelligence officers in my time were recruited on the basis of their commitment, recruited on the basis of the amount of trust that you could put. I mean, they stood out. today, in the intelligence community, you join the intelligence services. I've never heard of that. And you know, we went through rigorous training to ensure that the best of us were those people that were in the intelligence services.
Minister, we've got a caller from Sandton who's got a question for you. Let's go to the lines. Tebogo, if I'm not mistaken. Tebogo, good evening. Welcome to our first town hall.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm very well, thanks. Put your question to the minister.
Okay, ma'am. I know for a fact it's an open secret that our management at corporate level is corrupt, yet nobody is held to account. What will you do concerning the SOC? The SOE, I mean.
All right, there's a question around what you're going to be doing at state-owned companies. We've got another caller from Soweto. Bongani, I believe. Bongani, what's on your mind? Welcome to the program.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, ma'am. Thanks for asking.
Yes,
ma'am,
go for it.
My question is about unemployment. So I wanted to ask, how can the minister address the challenges of unemployment amongst the youth in this country?
All right, I think pretty straightforward, Minister.
Yes. The first one is, what do we do with the state? It's not just that SOE that he's talking about. Our SOEs are going through a very difficult time, and it is a pity because the amount of money that is being used, taken away from what I think are more valuable projects and put to, provide some kind of viability for SOEs is unfortunate. And what happens when people find that there is a corrupt official or corrupt manager in an SOE? I would suggest that you report them to the nearest police station. Over and above that, I would suggest that you go to the public protector and report them. Over and above that, I would suggest that you find ways of perhaps writing to a member of parliament and bringing this to their attention. Just make sure that your complaint is as widespread as possible.
Minister,
but at the same time, you've got to be sure of your facts, because once something is out there and there are no facts attached to it, you stand you damage somebody's reputation. But there are many channels around which you can complain about fraud and corruption. There are presidential land, free services lines that you can call on. There are a myriad of other things, and we will leave our own toll-free number too, so that we can be followed up on some of the things that we have said.
But with respect, Minister, all of these things have been done. We have treason charges that have been laid by members of the opposition, by organizations such as outer civil society organizations, against your cabinet colleagues, Minister Faith Mutambi, for example. Nothing is happening. If you are to be president of the African National Congress, how are you going to get that security cluster to actually do their work? Why did the PRASA board under Popo Molefe have to go to court to get the Hawks to do what they're constitutionally mandated to do?
Well, the first thing I would do if I were president in dealing with the security cluster is actually make sure that all of them are thoroughly revetted and all of them go back to school, so that by the time...
Why not fired?
Yes. I mean, democracy stands or falls on the strength of the intelligence and the security services that provide the protection that all of us depend on. And if they're not working, if they're dysfunctional in any way, it is almost treasonous. But it is possible that they're dysfunctional not intentionally, but because they don't have the skills to do what needs to be done. That is why I would take them back to school. All of them.
Do you think it's the lack of skills that accounts for why conspiracy lands so well in the African National Congress? I mean, people can literally whisper things into people's ears, and you can have state resources diverted. You yourself have been a target of attempts on your life. We have the deputy president complaining that his personal emails are being hacked.
Let me tell you something. You will never find an intelligence officer whispering anything to anybody. The minute you have somebody whispering to you, you can be quite sure they're not an intelligence officer. Intelligence officers are trained to ensure that all the information they have is processed and it goes to the right person. All these whispers that you hear are from people who are climbing onto the bandwagon. for good reason or for bad reason, I have no idea.
So why does the president use a fake intelligence report to recall a finance minister and a deputy finance minister and sack them?
I don't know if that was the reason why the president sacked the finance minister and his deputy. What he has said on record is that the relationship had broken down. It is you and I who are reading the newspapers, who are watching what goes on, who understand that perhaps at the back of it, there could have been this report, which has been proved to be faked. Because there was a public press conference at which Solly Mapaile read from the script of this particular bogus report, if it is a report at all. It ought not to have been all over the place, very badly written. And I am not sure if any steps have been taken to verify that.
Well,
That
the matter is with the Inspector General of Intelligence.
The Inspector General should not have been sitting on this matter for so long. This is an important matter. Intelligence needs to be dealt with instantaneously. Beyond that, it is history. You can't be sitting on that kind of report. There's so many reports that are floating around. The Gupta leaks have been floating around. Nobody has been doing anything about it. They've become normal. It is a new normal to find something in the newspaper about the Gupta leaks. Nobody has actually said, we've investigated this, and this is what the truth is, and this is what is untrue about this. We've had this in the past. We've had the Mole Browse report, and it was acted on expeditiously. This dragging of feet indicates to me the decline that we're now experiencing. This is the iceberg that you're talking about. We ought not to be in this situation at all.
All right, we're going to take about a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take some more questions from the floor, and we are going to be focusing on some of those economic challenges. The caller from Soweto specifically wanting the minister to address the question of youth unemployment. Do stay tuned.
Whether you're in the car, at the office, at home, or anywhere really, you can still enjoy 702. Download the 702 app to listen on your smartphone. We're also on FM, online at 702.co.za, and on DSTV Audio, channel 856.
They've got their favorite team, and I've got mine. SpringbokPharmacy.co.za. I shop for all our vitamins, healthy foods, and toiletries online. With Springbok Pharmacy's low prices and free delivery, I'm saving money and time.
Mommy, we're hungry.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. More me time. Shop online at springbokpharmacy.co.za. Free delivery in Gauteng and Vaal. T's and C's apply.
That's one. But I need more. Loads more. Big ones, small ones, even those no-hair ones. I need one cat for every single time Ben's asked me to house sit. Seriously, who spends all those weekends traveling? Not me. Not this little guy. Not all these other cats he will now have to look after instead of going away. Here, kitty, 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 come to Daniel. One tuna-flavored treat at a time. They arrive. Who's laughing meow, Ben? Who's laughing meow?
Don't be a travel hater. Book domestic and international holiday packages, flights, hotels, and car rentals.
What would you change if you could have things your way?
My kids would have the education I couldn't.
I'd be lying on the beach right now.
There would be no more bullies. And veggies would taste like chocolate.
Join the conversation by using hashtag #IfIHadMyWay. Plus, SMS quote to 47206 and get an obligation-free quote for your chance to win a 25,000 Rand weekly cash prize. Have it your way with My Way. TCs and standard rates apply. My Way is an authorized FSP.
702 Town Hall with Karima Brown. Have your say. Hashtag 702 Town Hall.
It is, of course, 11 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is the Karima Brown Show, a very special edition coming to you live from Prime Media Place in Sandton. We're having our first town hall. We're speaking to Lindiwe Sisulu, who has put up her hand to be available for the ANC presidency when the organization goes to its elective conference. Minister, let's focus the discussion on probably one of the most important questions for the governing party to answer. The fact that our economy is not growing, the fact that we are not creating jobs for young people. If you are the president of the African National Congress, are you going to be introducing any different policies to the ones that have already been put out there and hasn't quite yielded what ought to have been an economy that grows, that creates jobs? What are you going to do differently?
Okay.
What is going to distinguish you as president of the ANC on an economic level?
Okay. You know, let me contextualize the question that was asked, a very pertinent question about the rate of unemployment. You know, in the second quarter of 27, when we're experiencing a bit of a glitch, we shared 113,000 jobs in just this period. The economy is struggling, as you've indicated, to create jobs, and South Africa's unemployment rate is as high as 27%, 27.7, almost 28%, with 6 million South Africans willing but out of work. In all, more dramatically, we're experiencing 15 million South Africans who are not economically active. Now, that should be a shock to anybody's system, that we have 15 million people who are out there and economically inactive. Now, we have tried various options of how we can regenerate the economy. One of the first things that we're going to do is actually ensure that we create an environment that will give confidence to investors.
Well, one of the things that gives confidence is policy certainty.
It is policy certainty.
But we don't have it
absolutely.
at the moment.
Right. That's the first thing I was going to say. We need to create policy certainty. We need to create policy certainty amongst investors, amongst ourselves. People shouldn't wake up and wonder, what now, what next? Once we've created that policy certainty, give the necessary assurance that you can do business with us, and make sure that we can crowd in investors, make sure that we can crowd into the work that the government is providing the private sector, and have a collaborative effort to make sure that we are all in this together. But more importantly, the thing that most of us seem to miss is that the economy is not just some cloud sitting out there. It is about ourselves, the people. The people will do this, the people will do this. And we must empower people to actually take advantage of what it is and get themselves out of poverty. So what I would be doing is making sure, finding out from people, how can I help you help yourself? And this is where especially the youth come in, because these are able-bodied people, very eager, very much wanting to get out there and do something. And we can get from them what it is that they would need to do, and our job as government is to make sure that we create an enabling environment and give them the necessary resources that will make it possible for them to get themselves out of poverty, create wealth, create jobs for other people as well.
I'm going to be very specific, or ask you to be very specific, Minister. How exactly are you going to go about building trust between yourselves as a governing party and the business community? There's a great trust deficit.
Yes.
A lot of people in the business community feel that they can't really trust what the ANC is saying because they don't know which ANC they're talking to. How are you going to go about building trust so that there's investor confidence locally, so that there's consumer confidence, so that people who have money actually put it back into the economy? Business people who are too afraid and for all manner of reasons keep all of that money stashed in the banks. What is it that you're going to do to get confidence going, particularly amongst the business sector?
You know, let me talk from my personal experience so that it's not just something floating in the cloud there. When I was Minister of Housing for the first time in 2004, one of the first things I did was call on the banks, to say to the banks, I want to talk to you because I need you to assist me make sure that we can get houses for everybody. I need to understand what we're going to do about those people who are no longer able to pay for their mortgages. I came at a time when the banks had been very free in lending and giving mortgages, and hit a glitch themselves. I don't know why I get back to that word. Hit a glitch themselves because those people that had mortgages were unable to pay, and it happened largely in the area of Protea North, etc. So the banks themselves were willing to discuss with me, but I took that opportunity to sit down with them. I don't know how many times I've sat with the banks. I don't know how many times I've sat with the business community. By the time I left Human Settlements, it was a collaborative effort. I must tell you, 702 came to build houses at Cosmos City. That is how much we had worked together. Collaboration breeds the kind of trust that you need to ensure that we are working together. And it is possible. It has worked. All we need to do as government is reach out and make sure that we are working together with those people we want to bring on board. Trust doesn't grow like a tree. It is cultivated. It is cultivated out of interaction. And I would create the kind of business councils that would meet very regularly. I would want to find out what is it that they find so wanting in us as government, and I would indicate to them what kind of support that we need from them.
Okay, Minister, we've got 5 more minutes before we get to the 9 o'clock news. Let's bring it back to the African National Congress, because this is, of course, an election about, or an ANC election. You spoke about renewing the ANC, and you said unity can't be, fostered at all costs. If you are to look around at the rest of the presidential candidates, who would you like as your running mate?
Actually, the strange thing is we all, or rather, no, let me speak. I get on with all of them. Running behind me or running ahead of me? What was the question?
Well, both. I was going to ask you.
No.
I was going to ask you. Are you in this only for the position of presidents, or are you open to also be nominated to be the deputy?
Karima, you are driving me in a particular direction.
Yes, that's my job.
No. Let me tell you, I didn't wake up and say, I want to be a presidential candidate. There are people who are running the campaign. I'm not in the campaign. I am their candidate. And ultimately, they did not ask me to be anybody's deputy. They asked me to be a president. And that's what I accepted. If I have a running mate, it will be a running mate who shares my vision, a running mate who is who will be acceptable to my campaign, a running mate who we would be able to work with and collaborate with. I am very open to collaboration, but no, I am not a deputy because I'm a woman. No, I'm not a deputy to anybody. In fact, I would like a situation where you as a woman ask me, would you like Cyril to be your deputy? How about that?
Well, Minister, the question was, who do you see as your running mates, and whether you see yourself running as someone's deputy. So the question has been answered. You are saying you want to be the president of the African National Congress. What I would like to know is, what kind of people would you like on your team? What kind of traits should these leaders have, particularly against a background of almost two conflicting political ways of doing things in the ANC is beginning to evolve?
I would like people who are truly committed to the ANC.
But everyone says they're committed to the ANC.
No, but you are able to see. You're able to see through that. You are also able to see a true cadre of the ANC. The track record of the true cadre would be able to indicate whether it is these are populists or what. I want somebody who's not in it for themselves and what they can get out of it. I don't want anybody who's in affection and tied to affection. I want somebody who truly wants unity in the ANC and truly wants to see that the ANC succeeds. I want somebody who doesn't have a baggage with them, because we wouldn't know how to clean up that baggage.
Well, what does baggage mean, Minister?
Baggage means something that would detract from the campaign.
Such as?
Karima, baggage.
Yes. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, I just want a clean campaign. I just want people who would, the campaign that I am a candidate of would resonate with. Somebody who everybody can see, that's an honest guy, that's a good guy, that's a guy who will deliver the kind of ANC that we're looking for. Not somebody that might one day, turn out to be very different.
I've been asked over and over, but you supported so-and-so at such and such a time, and look how they turned out, and you supported so-and-so at such and such a time. We want tried and tested cadres of the organization to stand up and make sure that we can unite this organization and take it forward and take it back to its true character, because in 2019, we've got to win this election.
All right, Minister, we're going to go to the news at 9 o'clock. When we come back, I'm going to be throwing the questions open to the floor, but I want to know where your money is coming from to run this campaign in the ANC for the presidency of the African National Congress, because the truth of the matter is that elections are very expensive. Party elections are very expensive, but campaigning is also very expensive. It's just gone 9 o'clock. We're going to take a break. We're going to listen to the EWN news. When we come back, we hear from Minister Sisulu where her campaign money is coming from.
This is Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Khomotsa Modise. Presidential hopeful Lindiwe Sisulu has denied that the Umkhonto weSizwe Veterans Association is divided, but claims the organization is being used for ulterior motives. Sisulu, who previously served as Defence Force and Military Veterans Minister, has praised the MKMVA for supporting veterans, but admits that not all its members have received compensation. She says the association is not necessarily the problem.
I think that there is a section of MK which is using the institution of being MK for other reasons than making sure that we can provide the welfare of all MK soldiers.
She says the association's mandate is clear.
I do know that the reason why we have MKMVA is to look after our soldiers. And therefore, we would need to be as broad and as comprehensive as possible. Discussions.
Audience, can I have your attention? We've got the 9 o'clock news, so we've essentially got about 55 minutes left. Chris, do we have spots in the last hour? You do. Okay, so we're going to have a couple of spots, but we are getting an incredible amount of calls as well from people who want to ask questions. I've got like lots and lots of WhatsApp messages here. But a lot of people want to know about this money question. So I'm going to ask the minister to explain where her campaign funds are coming from and if she's associated with any business interest in the ANC. Then I'm going to read a couple of WhatsApp messages and just tell those who are trying to get through that we are going to take some calls, but I'm going to come back to you as an audience because of the appreciation that we want to show for you having come to the gathering. So please, can I have 3 questions from the audience ready so that we can get in and out really quickly and then take the calls from the lines and also get to the WhatsApp messages. Yeah.
Vodacom Group CEO Shamil Jusab has reiterated that there was a fair tender process in their deal with government. The Competition Commission has announced that it's investigating Vodacom for allegedly abusing its dominance to secure the contract to the detriment of other operators. The contract involves 20 government departments and is worth about 5 billion rand. Jusab says the deal was completely above board and the operator will cooperate with any investigation.
It was a fiercely contested process. And we had to go in and put our best foot forward. So, we're happy to deal with the commission. We've made contact with the commission since the announcement came out, and we will sit down with them and show them exactly what we did.
And in Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe's party has warned the private media to stop attacking the ruling party and its leaders. In a statement, party spokesman Simon Kaya Moyo says reporters will live to regret what he calls misinforming the public. Ryan Truscott reports.
ZANU-PF spokesman Simon Kaya Moyo has condemned what he calls systematic and incessant private media attacks on the party and its leaders. He says a Daily News report yesterday that ZANU-PF is heading for a split is part of a smear campaign. In a statement, the spokesman warned that those misinforming the public and spreading falsehoods would live to regret it. The threat comes after a journalist was yesterday charged with criminal nuisance for reporting that First Lady Grace Mugabe donated second-hand underwear to supporters. In an editorial, the private Newsday says harassment of journalists by the state is on the rise. Ryan Truscott, Eyewitness News, Zimbabwe.
$74.36 cents an ounce. The rand's at 13.56 to the dollar, 17.96 to the pound, 15.95 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $55.72 a barrel. A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with widespread thunder showers expected. Johannesburg dropping to an overnight low of 12 degrees, reaching a high of 22. Pretoria 15 and 25. Vereeniging 13 and 18. Fine in Cape Town tomorrow, a light southwesterly
Your
forecast.
seats, we've got a couple of seconds
and a
left.
high
Please
of
start
19.
taking your
The top
seats.
story in Eyewitness News at this hour.
Please come to the
Presidential
front.
hopeful Lindiwe Sisulu has denied that the Umkhonto Wesizwe Veterans Association is divided, but claims the organization is being used for ulterior motives.
Eyewitness News. In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.mobi.
Know your rights. Use them responsibly. Lead SA.
Making sense of today's issues. 702 Town Hall with Karima Brown. Hashtag 702 Town Hall.
It's just gone 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Welcome to the final and second half of the program. We are, of course, in conversation with presidential hopeful, presidential candidate. Lindiwe Sisulu, and we are talking about what her plans are to recalibrate this organization. And one of the most important things that have been identified as a cancer in the African National Congress is, of course, the influence and use of money. It has been argued that it's not just the state that is captured, but in fact the African National Congress itself, that branch structures are being gatekept, that it is money that moves, and that we are in the era of a member's member. So, Minister, before we went to the break, I asked you to explain where your campaign funds are coming from, and let me explain why. It's not a silly question. It's quite expensive to get around, and obviously there's a line that needs to be drawn between your work in the state and your work in the African National Congress. And so it would be important, as someone who's committed to want to recalibrate this organization, to want to renew it, to explain to ANC members and to the public at large how you go about asking ANC members to assist you in this campaign, particularly those branches that, of course, have nominated you. And then the key issue is, are you attached to business interests? And because I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with it. I think the problem is that it's secret, pretty much like our party political funding. We don't know who is running around with bags of money, and that's where the problem starts.
You know what I like about your question? I would like you to ask it of every candidate who comes here.
Absolutely.
Because the cancer of money is what drives people into corruption in the state, and it permeates the entirety of our society. We will never get the ANC right, we will never get the government right, we will never get our society right, for as long as people are prostituting themselves to get money, prostituting the ANC to get money. And money is being used on a large scale to buy membership, to do all of these things. Now, there's a difference between money that is used for those purposes, administrative purposes that will run the campaign. There is money that is being used for actually buying members. There is a story running around in the Eastern Cape that 80 million rands was deposited there for this forthcoming election. I don't know how many houses I would have built out of that 80 million. I'm salivating out of that. And this is money that is being used for personal promotion. It's wrong, absolutely wrong. And if we're going to stop this in the ANC, it's got to start at some point. Nobody is providing me with money for my campaign. Nobody. I'll tell you.
So are all your volunteers working for free?
No. Most of my volunteers are working for free, but there are people, especially my family and friends, who are offering and have offered to pay. What attracts me to my campaign is I know everybody who's in that campaign has come out of commitment, deep-seated commitment. Not one of them has come hoping to get anything out of that. If anything, they're out there trying to raise money to make sure that the administration functions.
Minister,
and when you see on a regular basis that there is a faltering and a going down in the ratings, it's because we're still trying to make sure that we have the necessary resources. But I would like to give you all my account numbers. I'd like to give you the constituency fund that we use, and we can send, not KPMG, but any auditor there. We can send any auditor there. Every penny is accounted for from where it comes from, and every penny that is used for a particular purpose, for administrative purposes. You know, I learned from, I know this is very old and it doesn't work today, but I learned from Sophie de Bruyn, who says to me, you know, those 20,000 women who congregated in Pretoria to give over those demands to Stradom or whatever it was, had come on their own steam. Not one of them was waiting for a bus that was going to be given by the ANC. They all brought with them their own little scuffins of food, and 20,000 of them, with their blankets, went and spent the night in Pretoria. For me, that touched me to the core, because I realized that those women that we owe our liberation to really cared and were committed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to use the same example to deal with the realities of today. But what I am saying is, around me are people who are truly committed to ensuring that the ANC lives, to ensuring that we run a clean ANC, to ensuring that those people that we take along have confidence in us. We need to build trust. What I stand for is I want people to trust me. I want people to see me as an honest person. I want people to see in me somebody in whose hands the ANC will be free and safe.
Okay.
And I live my life to say, in my hands, the ANC will be safe.
All right, Minister, let me give you some sentiments from our listeners who've sent WhatsApp messages and some questions that are coming before we go to our audience. We also must say thank you so very much to all those listeners who are calling in, and I understand the lines are jam-packed. We are coming to you. We are going to be taking your questions, but let me just read out some WhatsApp messages. I've got one here from Mike in Pretoria. It says, Minister Sisulu, 2 questions. Have you written to Derek Hanekom in relation to holding the president to account for bringing the ANC into disrepute?
Yes.
Who is the better devil between NDZ and CR17? You don't even feature on that one. Then I've got Michael in Greenstone saying the ANC is not in need of renewal but a rebirth. How does Mam Lindiwe Sisulu intend to confront the pink elephant in the room, corruption in the ANC, which has effectively weaved itself into the state? And then I've got Mpo in Alberton saying, jobs to decrease high rate of crime. Minister, how are you going to root out factionalism in our organization? Some SMSs. Hi, Karima. There is nothing new from the minister. She represents the ANC. Why the state capture allegations have not been investigated? And that's coming from Tulani in Midrand. Another SMS, Alan in Parktown. Hi, Karima. Minister Zwane said today that the ANC branches have already decided who will be the next president and that the ANC NEC already knows. Is this true? Is he lying? That's from Alan in Parktown. And then I've got Tifo in the Eastern Cape says, question for Minister. What do you think the Mandelas, Sisulus, and Tambus think of the ANC today? What is your view of the ANC in its present form? And then the last one, Minister's presentation is disappointing. Her concern is all about the ANC, but what about society and the country? What about the economy? Let's start with the last one, Minister, and work our way back.
Yes. I came here as a presidential candidate, so obviously my starting point will be to correct the ANC. There's no way I could project what will be done to the country if our house is not in order. So I have spent an inordinate amount of time dealing with the ANC because that is the issue right now. By the time that I am through this particular period, we will be out there. We will have a manifesto as the ANC. It will not be my manifesto. It will be the ANC manifesto, and I'll be out there, if I succeed, making sure that I am dealing with all of these things that we're talking about now. We're thrashing them out now because the ANC is a leader of society. We are the governing party. That is why I am concentrating on this. What would Mandela and Tambo think of us today? When Kathrada died, he was very angry with us. They had a similarity amongst all of them. They thought the same, they lived the same way, they had the same humility, the same commitment. You know, it's almost like their 27 years together had created a oneness in them. Now, you can gauge from that they would also have been very disappointed and very angry with us. And it hurt me that Kathrada died so angry and disappointed after he had given so much to us. And our responsibility as people who have benefited from what they have done is to make sure that there isn't another person who dies and as unhappy as Kathy was. We have the opportunity now. We're going into December. We've got to make sure everybody who's voting has to make sure that we are creating an ANC that anybody who's taken part in our liberation can be proud of. An ANC that we can leave to our children, and our children will be proud of it. Not an ANC that is in the kind of situation that we are in now, with all sorts of things being thrown at us, and we are unable to shield ourselves from these accusations. What Mr. Zwane was saying is actually so wrong, because what he is doing is undermining the democratic processes that are central in the ANC. I don't know what drove him to say that, but I am going to write to him as well and tell him that what he said was wrong and he should not do it again. And why I'm saying very much the same things. Why has state capture not been investigated? I don't think that the listener who made that comment has heard me. I'm almost like a stuck record on the issue of we, the ANC, have internal processes that ought to have kicked in. I said so at the policy conference. We have the ability.
So should the ANC have brought President Zuma before its disciplinary committee?
It should have brought everybody who's investigating. First, it should have verified the information, and that's what the intelligence services normally do and should have done. And thereafter called in everybody who's affected to say, could you tell us your side of the story? And we would be able to sift those who are wrongly accused and those who actually have something to answer for. Those who have something to answer for would need to go through the normal disciplinary process. That is the ANC tradition, anybody and everybody. So we have been talking about this, and I have been saying, which goes back to the first question, have I written to Derek Honeycomb? Before I leave, I'll give you a copy of the letter. I wrote to Derek Honeycomb, I wrote to the SG of the ANC. Derek Honeycomb did respond to me that he is the chair of the disciplinary processes, but he does not initiate disciplinary processes. I subsequently wrote to Gwede Mantashe. He has acknowledged my letter, so both of them, I have written to them, as I said I would. There was a question about corruption in the ANC. What are we doing about corruption in the ANC? Because it is now becoming spilling out into society. I don't know if the Integrity Committee, which was meant to be dealing with this matter, has sufficient capacity to deal with what we wanted it to do. We did put together an Integrity Committee, and it was meant to deal with some of these issues. Unfortunately, we having to renew that committee from time to time and give it administrative support. And otherwise, we should be dealing with corruption. But corruption outside of the ANC, that's for the courts. And we would urge the courts, we would urge anybody who's got any evidence to make sure that it is made available. We don't want any kind of assertion of corruption attached to the ANC. It's going to take a long time for us to get beyond that. We are very mindful of the fact that we've got an election to fight in 2019, and therefore we want to make sure that the ANC is seen to be what it is, honest people, no corruption attached to it. Anybody who's corrupt, we will send to the courts, and the courts will deal with that.
All right, it's just gone 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is, of course, the Karima Brown Show, the first of our town hall meetings. We are speaking with presidential candidate in the African National Congress, Lindiwe Sisulu, about her bid to lead the governing party. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take some callers who have been waiting patiently, as well as our audience who have joined us live here at Prime Media Place in Sandton. Do stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Bongani Bingwa, weekday afternoons, 3 to 6.
Can you remember a time when relations with sitting mining minister were this low with the Chamber of Mines?
I've been in the industry for more than 25 years and it's never been as low as this.
Roger Baxter, the chief executive of the South African Chamber of Mines in Johannesburg, saying that the trust with the minister is no longer there because they can only rely on legal avenues for workable remedies.
Bongani Bingwa on 702, your number one news and talk station.
At Axis, we asked ourselves, what if your employees could submit their leave from the palm of their hands? Axis Employee Self-Service lets you manage your people quickly and effortlessly from any device, anywhere, anytime. Find out how the Axis ESS solution can bring your people management up to date so that you can manage less and innovate more. Go to accsys.co.za for proven people management solutions.
Nyaube, Wonga, Ntash, call it what you want to. Drugs are destroying our city. The city of Tshwane is calling upon the community to stand with us in the fight against drugs. It's my problem.
It's your problem.
It's our problem.
If you know of someone struggling with drug addiction in your community, help them by calling the City of Tshwane Hope Line on 012-358-5001. I am Tshwane.
Minute to go to
care
air,
about
guys,
others.
so start quieting
Do you?
down.
The City of Tshwane, igniting excellence.
John, are we still paying the right price after all these years with our insurer?
Hippo.co.za. It's a free-to-use price comparison website. Just put in your details here.
It does all the hard work for you.
Hippo instantly gets quotes directly from a range of insurance brands.
Just one website compares all of this.
You don't even have to break a sweat. Look how much you can save with this.
We could pay for salsa lessons.
An easier way to find insurance and more. To get quotes, visit hippo.co.za. Hippo is an authorized FSP. Savings amount based on 2016 independent research.
702 Town Hall with Karima Brown. Share your views and questions. Hashtag 702 Town Hall.
And of course, now we are going to give our live studio audience an opportunity to put some more questions to the Minister. I understand there are two questions. We've got the roving mics going. We've got two hands in front over here, and then, of course, over here. Can we have the first person standing up, please?
Dumelang. My name is Lesedi Diseko. I'm from the ANC Youth League branch at UJAPK. My first question to Umama is that we know that the ANC Youth League, the ANC itself, is very patriarchal because of a patriarchal society, right? I know, for one, in a meeting of the ANC Youth League that I had in my branch, I was told to stop bringing up issues of women because this is not the ANC Women's League. So I want to know, what are your plans on dismantling patriarchy, especially in the African National Congress, because we are the leaders of society. The second question is on housing distribution. So I'm from Thokoza, right? It's in Ekurhuleni, and there were RDP houses built at Eden Park, which is a dominantly colored community. So the colored people in that community felt that they did not want black people in the RDP houses in their community because they felt it was their community. Now, the people that were attacked were women, specifically, because I know my aunt is one of them, and she is scared to even go to that RDP house that was distributed to her. So I want to know, in dismantling the patriarchal society, we know as young people, we want land. We are very clear about the issue of land, right? And we don't want land and say that, okay, the ANC will give us land, but we'll just become cattle in that land. As you are today, you make me proud because you were able to define yourself outside of your father. Because people were going to say, no, she's just a Sisulu, but you're able to be Lindiwe Sisulu, right? So it makes us proud as young women, but we want to know, what are you going to do for us as women, because we're being attacked in this patriarchal society.
Right. Second question.
Good evening, my name is Balasa Molefe. I'm a BEC member at the Youth League in UJAPK. Firstly, Karima, I feel as if some of your questions are very highly out of order. It has nothing to do with Mama's campaign. You're trying to steer the questions and the discussion somewhere else. And Mama, I just want to know, in terms of the ANC, at the policy conference in June, one of the strategic objectives was that to transfer state power into the hands of the majority. So I just want to get your view on land without expropriation.
All right, before we're going to get Minister to answer the questions, we've got a couple of callers who've been waiting. So I'm going to take two more calls, Minister, and then we can start with addressing or answering, rather, the questions from our audience that's live with us, and then the callers. So let me quickly go to the lines. I've got Michelle, whom I think is coming from Attridgeville, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Michelle, what's your question to the Minister? Welcome to the program.
Good evening, Minister Sisulu. I'm speaking to Michelle here from Attridgeville, and I have a question for you.
I can see that there are current corruption cases within the government, right? So can you please tell me on how you going to deal with this as a president?
All right, let's go to Tiso, who I think is in the Eastern Cape. Tiso, good evening. Welcome to the program. What's your question to Minister?
Thank you. I've got a question for the Minister with regards to RTP houses. My name is Tiff. I'm calling you from East London in the Eastern Cape. Our question is, there are those of us that do not qualify for RTP houses, and we do not qualify for bonds in terms of the banks. What will your government do, Minister, if you get the position as President of the country and of the ANC? What will your government do for us in that bracket of South Africans? Thank you.
All right, let's have the last caller on the line. Tebo, Tebo from Nigel. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Karima and the Minister. The question I just want to pose to the Minister is a question that I would ask to anyone who is making himself or herself available for presidency of the ANC. The state capture and the corruption that has happened in our country is not something that has happened overnight. They are the processes that have happened. They happened right in front of their noses, being there as NEC members. Now they say they want to correct, and they couldn't prevent. Why? Is it incompetency from their side, or is it ignorance? Because if there's somebody saying he's waiting for the results of the investigation, that means that they are still not agreeing that state capture is a reality. Why didn't they do anything while they are there?
All right, let's give Minister Sisulu an opportunity to respond to the questions. We'll start, Minister, if you can respond to the questions that came from the floor from our live audience.
Yes. Lisedi from Togoza, I don't know if you...
Yes, the first question was how are you going to deal with patriarchy?
No, that was... Okay, yes. Lisedi, you know, if I had it my way, if I was president, one of the things that I would want to do is pay particular attention to education. Education. Apart from the fact that I would like it to be free, I would want to make sure... I would want to make sure that we craft the syllabus and the curriculum in such a way that we are able to deal with the problems that we are encountering in society. Patriarchy is one of it's the last bastion of oppression that we need to get rid of. And it is why I am standing as a woman, because it will only be a woman who will be able to drive a revolution and ensure that we will overcome patriarchy. Patriarchy is so deeply embedded in our traditions. And unfortunately, it is one of those issues where it is women who are protecting patriarchy, almost colluding with those who benefit from patriarchy. It is the way we are brought up, where we, as women, get up in the morning and wash the dishes, and the lazy ones, the boys, lie there with their smelly socks, and you've got to go around and clean up. We've got to change the way, right from school to the public education that we give out there, remove all of these soapies that might not have educational content and put more content on public education so that we actually begin to understand that this is wrong. Patriarchy is another form of oppression of women, and it will continuously have this reproduced by ourselves. I'm very passionate about this matter. Now, on the issue of how do we protect women against some of the ills of society, I had hoped when I grew up with a mother who was in the Women's League. And somehow I thought that these were the things that they were sorting out, that the Women's League was dealing with these things. By the time I get to this age, there would be no inequality and all of those things. We still live like that. So we've got to find a way, a new agency in which we can find a solution finally to patriarchy. But don't allow anybody to bully you simply because you're a woman. What I have done in human settlements is to make sure that when we give a house, we give the house to the woman. The man is just an attachment, but the house belongs to the woman. And everywhere I have been, the men have found me, like, you know, if they found me in a dark corner, they would give me a slap across the face. But the reason why is because ultimately the woman is the person who looks after the children. And ultimately, therefore, the title deed, in my view, should be written in the name of the woman. We're still working on this. And if we get men to understand that is the way we're going to go, we can begin somewhere. In terms of land and how the laws govern land, we're dealing with that as well. And the minister who's responsible for that is very amenable to making sure that women can inherit land, especially in communal areas. You were talking also about houses where the area where you come from, where the colored community, that's racism. No longer has anything to do. That's racism. And we must find a way within our schools to deal with racism. We've got to make sure that our children unlearn racism. It doesn't just disappear like the dew in the morning. You actually have to continuously unlearn that which you are brought up believing is reality. So we've got to find a way that education system that we're going to create has a portion on it that deals with racism. How do you unlearn behavior? How do you unlearn perceptions? How do you unlearn those things that you thought were, part of life? And if those colored people don't want to move, black people to move into those houses, then they haven't understood that we live in a different community and country today. We are deliberately ensuring that we have integrated human settlements, where we will have a colored family, an Indian family, an African family, and so forth and so forth and so forth, so that we live as South Africans. Somewhere down the line, we would like to find that nobody is described as an African or an Indian or whatever it is. We are all South Africans, and we are all going to live in the same place. So that issue that you raised, we will follow up. One of my people here, called Mabaya, will follow up on that issue, and we will make sure that we sort it out and ensure that people understand that we live in a democracy where everybody has equal rights to other people. Palisa was the one who was dealing with transfer of land without compensation. Palisa, this is a matter that the ANC has found so intractable that it has decided that it is going to deal with this matter in a particular special NEC. We were caught slightly off guard by the EFF. The EFF, they think they're kind of clever. They say to us, come join us in this vote that we're preparing, because the benefits would benefit the ANC. But unfortunately, they'd miscalculated that we'd run ahead of them in this matter. We are trying to deal with the Constitution and understand the impediments that we have around the Constitution. And if need be, we will possibly go towards making sure that we can change the Constitution. But what the Minister of Land Affairs has done is to create an evaluator general, so that we actually understand the value of land, because we had been stuck for a long time on willing buyer, willing seller, and not being able to work out what the value of the land is. But we haven't quite made up our mind as the ANC about the transfer of land without compensation. Of course, underpinning all of this is that we do not, as government, as yet, have a complete audit of the land that we have.
Minister, why don't we? Because this was one of the things that President Jacob Zuma's administration promised in 2009. A national land audit, and its results would be made public. We are now sitting in the twilight of his second term in office.
We haven't finished it. We haven't done it.
Why not?
Because the deeds office has a backlog of I don't know how many years. So what Minister Nkwinti decided to do is to digitize the deeds office, the title deeds, the better to be able to trace the owners. And we have been able to get some statistics, which I have here, which I can give out to you, of how much land the state owns, not more than 16%. Most of it is private land, and et cetera, et cetera. But we have not completed the audit yet. When we do complete the audit, it will be possible to take the next step and say, this is the amount of land we need for housing, this is the amount of land that we need for this and the other,
but
and Minister, we will be able to take it without compensation.
But Minister, the Constitution as it currently stands does allow you to expropriate without compensation if it's for the public good.
It is for
Why have you not done so?
Oh, right, let me tell you. I, in human settlements, have done that. And this is something I want to repeat to all of you. You know, as we give a house in the urban areas, we also give the land. This is part of our redistribution of land in the urban areas. And it goes completely unnoticed. But the amount of land that we've given to our people as part of giving the house is phenomenal. And we omit that statistic at our own peril. But I want to emphasize here, we are expropriating land to make sure that we can give it to those people who are more deserving. We have taken a decision as the ANC that land within the urban area, within a particular radius of the urban area, will be used for public good, which is human settlements, which is why I decided to take on the case against Helen Zille when she sold Staffelberg to a private company to create something else other than social housing. So we are on that matter. We're not as public about it as perhaps you would like, but we are continuously making sure that we can take land to ensure that people have housing within the urban areas. Michelle, corruption in government. Yes, there is a great deal of corruption in government, and we have institutions in government where it is possible for us to report this matter. But I was thinking of something more in light of the fact of establishment of an administrative tribunal, corruption tribunal, very much like the competitions tribunal, because we don't want people to feel that we're using this issue of corruption on factional basis or trying to look like we're smarter than everybody else. It is a real problem. And the question was, second question was, why did we allow it to go on like this? You know, sometimes you have something in the body, and I think they usually compare corruption to cancer. You might have cancer in the body. You will not understand the extent of that cancer until possibly it is too late. This is what's happened to us now. And we are doing something about it now because it has become unbearable. It is out in the open and completely unacceptable. I have been on this anti-corruption campaign since 2012 when I was Minister of Public Administration. It was not fashionable then. I don't remember anybody. I don't remember a journalist writing about it. I don't remember anybody even caring, because it was at that point that we needed to take necessary steps to curtail the level of corruption in government. But finally, we did manage to get the PEM bill put across, and in the PEM bill, no member no one who's employed in the public service may get work from government. And that was one step that I was able to get into to make sure that we can curb corruption. Otherwise, we would still be where we were, 10 years ago. But steps are being taken continuously to make sure that we can curb corruption. It is something we're concerned about, and we're wanting to make sure that we're not using it or seen to be using it to snipe at somebody. Tiso in East London, Tiso wants to know, what am I going to do about him and getting a house, etc. Tiso, you don't need to wait for me to be a president to assist you in your housing problem. There is a hotline for housing. Please call that. I'm already there, ready to assist you, whatever your problem is. And Tabiso, state capture. Why is it taking us so long to deal with state capture? It hasn't taken us so long to deal with state capture. We are dealing with this on a regular basis. We are expressing ourselves on this matter on a regular basis. And finally, there will be a judicial commission of inquiry, and I'm certain that it will put this behind us very soon, once we get to the end of that.
All right, Minister, I've got a couple of questions for you. Just for listeners who've managed to tune in, we are, of course, having a conversation with presidential candidate in the African National Congress, Lindiwe Sisulu. She is nominated for the position and will, of course, be standing for that position come December when the party goes to its elective conference. Minister, there's a lot of discussion about what the ANC is. And, of course, the ANC is many things. this. I spoke with Murphy Morobi a couple of weeks ago about the importance of defining the ANC as a governing party as opposed to a ruling party. And he made a really important distinction. He spoke about the fact that if you define yourself as a governing party, you accept that you seek a mandate, you accept that you earn leadership, you accept that you need to go to the people. If you speak about a ruling party, you tell people they need to be forever indebted to you because you liberated them and that you are an overlord. What kind of ANC do you want Africa's oldest liberation movement to become? What kind of party do you want to become? And how are you going to modernize the ANC without cutting off its mass base and popular participation? But how are you going to get it out of its time warp that it is stuck in, quite frankly?
You know, these are some of the questions that we asked ourselves when we came into the country. How are we going to regroup? How are we going to make sure that people come back to the ANC? By that time, we had the UDF. And other structures. But as soon as we came back, you know, the ANC has such a legacy in the history of our people that it became almost a natural gravitation towards the ANC. Even the UDF that had stood in between very willingly gave up its independence and dissolved the UDF. So I think I have no problem around how are we going to make sure that we can grow the ANC, modernize it. There are many young people here on a regular basis. They're discussing ANC matters via social media. On a regular basis, they are forcing us to reinvent ourselves. We are not stuck in the past. Now, the fine definition between a ruling party and a governing party, I would agree with Murphy. We are a governing party because every 5 years we go to the polls and we ask a mandate from our people to continue to run. We've just lost 3 metros. That should tell you that we're not governing in those areas. It was a very sad time because we had at the back of our mind we'd kind of, accepted that the ANC will live forever.
You became complacent.
We were complacent. The ANC will live forever. The ANC will lead forever. And
people will give you loyalty forever.
Well, yes, we did think because we had fought, people would give us loyalty forever. And we've realized that that is not the case. We actually, on a regular basis, need to earn the trust of the people. We need to earn their confidence in us. And this is what we're continuously trying to do. We're going into elections now in December to try and get a new crop of leadership that will reinvigorate the ANC and take us to the next step. There is no way that we will have a 3rd term or anything of that nature. We're continuously accountable in that way.
Minister, we're going to take a short break. We have to pay the bills. But when we come back, I'm going to ask you specifically what kind of team you would like to put together if you become president in order to regain the trust of the electorate that you lost in the municipal elections, because it's pointless taking control of the African National Congress and losing power in 2019. For those who are listening at home, do stay tuned. We're going to pay the bills. When we come back, Minister Sisulu is going to tell us how she's going to get the ANC fighting fit for 2019.
Eusebius McKaiser, weekday mornings, 9 to 12.
Have you invited your exes to your wedding?
All right, we are joined in this conversation with Minister of Human Settlement, who is also an ANC NEC member, ANC presidential hopeful. How are you, Minister? Thank you so much for your time.
I don't like the term hopeful.
What do you prefer? Future president?
No. Candidate.
Candidate. ANC candidate. Thank you so much for your time. And how's the campaign been going? I mean, you launched it with a bang a few months ago.
Yes.
How has it been going so far?
It is the most draining thing I've encountered, because I have a full-time job and many other family responsibilities, so it really is very stressful, draining. Mm-hmm. But it's going very well. I have a lot of very committed people around me, for which I'm grateful. What I'll do is invite you when we're together and having a meeting, so you can see us at work and see what it is that we do. And most of the time we are strategizing, holding workshops around, messaging and all of that. And then we go through my program and we go out to the field, wherever it is that I've been invited to, and we speak to our branches. So we have a whole battery of, components of a battery that are operational, working around the clock.
And I imagine those discussions and the many meetings also involve perhaps even having discussions with other candidates, as you prefer, not necessarily hopefuls.
Yes.
Have you started those negotiations yet?
No, we haven't. I think generally the time that you would expect that there would be any discussions is after nominations. Right now, no. I mean, we discuss, I discuss with everybody about anything. And if the issue of elections does come up, I'm free to discuss with anybody who raises the issue. But the kind of discussions you're talking about is discussions around mergers.
Yes.
And no.
Elsewhere, and we want to give everyone an opportunity to
Musical Evita at Monte Casino's Teatro on Saturday, the 4th of November at 8 o'clock. You'll be supporting the growing numbers of our mums, dads, sons, daughters, and others living with life-threatening illnesses, hopeful and with dignity. Tickets from 300 Rand to 500 Rand can be purchased by calling Lynn on 011 483 9148.
Every day of the year, Dis-Chem helps customers lead a healthier lifestyle with affordable prices and expert advice on a wide range of goods. Then for 24 days of the year, we get so focused on healthy living, we stretch ourselves to the max. So as well as our everyday best, you also get extra super savers, special offers and discounts up to 50% off color tag sale, banded packs, 2+1 free offers, and loads more. Don't wait. Stretch your savings to the max and focus on healthy living in-store and online till 15th October. Dis-Chem, pharmacists who care.
We acknowledge and recognize people.
A hero rises in the face of adversity. A hero helps people even when it's not their job.
Amazing people.
And who not only sees the change, but becomes it.
People doing great things in our community.
We celebrate our everyday heroes no matter how big or small. And remember, everyone has the potential to be a hero. Everyone has the potential to lead SA. Nominate your Lead SA hero on leadsa.co.za and help inspire a nation. Lead SA. Be the change.
Lead SA Heroes is brought to you in partnership with My School, My Village, My Planet.
702 Town Hall with Karima Brown. Share your views and questions. Hashtag 702 Town Hall.
My guest, of course, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, who is the presidential candidate, one of 7 running for that post to be decided at its elective conference in December. Now, Minister, a lot of analysts have argued that the intense fighting inside the African National Congress, combined with your loss in the municipal elections in those metros and the state of our economy and some of our state institutions, is going to make it harder for you to continue to rely on electoral support from voters. And of course, people have already indicated their unhappiness. You are running for president of the African National Congress. What's your strategy for getting the organization fighting fit so that you are ready to close that trust gap and that deficit that has developed between yourselves and your traditional supporters?
Okay. Our country boasts a younger population than the older population. So one of the things that I would want to concentrate on is attracting the younger generation, because we would hold that position in trust for them. So I would want them to come on board, and just their energy would be sufficient. But of course, they would be leading innovation. They are what I am building the future for. I would want to co-govern with them. I'd like them on board. I'd like them to know that we need them. I'd like them to know that they're important. I'd like them to know that it is their future that we're preparing for. And I'd like them very much involved in what we're doing. And I believe if we get that right balance, we will get the younger generation and we will have the necessary push. Number 2, We have made some mistakes in the past. We've made serious mistakes in the past, and we would need to actually acknowledge those mistakes and indicate how we're going to solve those mistakes. And we are in the process right now of making sure that we are as transparent as possible within the ANC. It's not always easy. Sometimes you get leaks that are, misinform the public. But on a continuous basis, what is driving us, especially in our campaign, is how can we make the ANC more attractive for our people? Because the end game is to make sure that in 2019 we win the election. There's no point in winning the presidency of the ANC now and losing in 2019. I mean, that would be the worst tragedy that would have befallen us. But there's something that I wanted to get back to, which has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but it just eclipsed me now. Tabo earlier on had asked, how is it possible that we did not know about state capture? Yes, that's a very valid question. Now, I'm a historian by nature, and one of my students was telling me, ma'am, do you know what? In 1908, a relative of Olive Schreiner, the well-known writer, was in negotiations when they were putting together the union, which came into place in 1910. And his biggest problem was, I don't want a strong government, a strong central government, because you know what? The possibility of that being captured by the mining industry is very great. Now, if I'd read that a few years ago, I wouldn't have known what he's talking about. But now I know about state capture. Now I definitely know about state capture. And we will make sure that we put in place that administrative tribunal that I'm talking about, where it is possible for us to actually monitor to what extent certain external forces have influence on the state. But
Minister, when you talk about external forces, who exactly are you referring
we're talking, in this particular case, for instance, in 1908, history seems to repeat itself. The biggest problem then was the power of the mining, of the mining magnates. And the worry of the people who were involved in government is what power would these people influence on government? And therefore, we should make sure that whatever government we have, we protect it from the power of external forces. We didn't know that. We went in bluntly. And of course, external forces would want to have power over government. That seems to be what they thrive for. They thrive on exerting their influence, spreading their influence. And before we know it, we are in a situation where what is called state capture is a here and clear and present situation which we have to investigate. And who are we talking about? We're talking about people with vested interest in making sure that decisions that are taken by government favor them.
All right, let's take some callers. But before we do that, we are going to give our live audience an opportunity. We've got 2 questions from our live audience. Okay, we're just getting the mic going there.
Dumelang, lebitso la ka ke Monteng Rosalia Motai. I am a student leader and an activist from the University of UJ. Mine is not so much a question as I was covered by Comrade Lesedi, Comrade Balesa, and the order that was called by Comrade Balesa as well. Mine is to say to you, Mama, we are here, we are available, we are excited, we are energized, we are so happy that you are the candidate. I'd also like to say that, Mama, we are so proud. You are a must for the ANC. You give us hope as aspiring black female leaders who seek to be the first president of the Youth League and who seek to follow in your footsteps in the ANC. Mama, in you we trust and we are inspired. And good luck.
Can we have the second question?
Can I just answer quickly?
Absolutely.
You go, girl. You go get it. You have all my love and blessings. Good luck. Thank you.
Next question.
Thank you very much. My name is Mahlengi Bengu. I think I was earlier acknowledged. And I was supposed to speak about youth and young people. I won't do that because I think they're able.
Just
capable,
speak for themselves.
and they've done it. So, the ancestors must just shut up. So I'm going to speak about a different matter, Minister, and thank you very much about your statement on how we need to be bashing patriarchy and what you're promising to the people of this country, to women in particular, in respect of how, beyond what we've done, we're going to bash patriarchy. So I don't want to belabor that point, but thanks so much for actually promising hope in as far as that is concerned. My real issue is, you spoke about the democratic deficit. And the minister spoke about the anger of our people. And indeed, we have a reality of a serious democratic deficit in this country. The people of South Africa, a large section that believed in the African National Congress, have lost that belief and the trust in the ANC. It is our reality. I'm very interested in any presidential hopeful that is speaking about renewing the ANC should demonstrate that very same, if you like, more cutthroat about how we're going to do that to ensure that the ANC reaches out to the people. So we've spoken about it, Karima. So I'm just reiterating the point about the ANC reconnecting with society. And the question is if that is at all possible. And for it to happen, it's going to require some kind of a Damascus moment. And I'm hoping that the minister can really, in the future campaigns, communicate this message succinctly, clearly, and present something that people can work with. And all the best with the campaign.
All right, so we are going to go to two more people in the audience here, and then we're going to go to the lines. Just let me remind you, in fact, we are going to take one person because we've got 6 minutes left before the 10 o'clock news and before our time is up. So let's get to it.
Good evening, Minister. I'm Tlakomelo Mukhali. I'm a young professional. I work at one of the banks across the road. You touched on...
Any loans there?
You touched on something that got me really excited. You spoke about thinking outside of the box when it comes to your leadership style. So I wanted to know, what are your views on cadre deployment moving forward? And would you be open to filling posts with young professionals that are not affiliated to the ANC? Thank you.
All right, I think I'm going to exercise my power as the chair of this conversation. I think the last questions, in many ways, almost epitomizes the sentiments of some of the comments that were made by the other audience. So, Minister, would you like to start from the back? So if you could answer those last questions. You've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
How do we reconnect with our people? The good thing about having a poverty-stricken candidate like myself is I'm available to go to small groups of people and meet with them there and have a discussion with them. And to be able to build trust and reconnect with people is a two-way thing. I'm available. I'd like them to be available. And from the interaction that we have with them, I've learned a lot. So even if I don't make it for 2019, I am a better person, or 2017, I'm a better person now for having taken this route. I understand the ANC, I understand my people much better. And the second question was...
The question was, Mahlengi, how are you going to deal with the democratic deficit? How are you going to practically infuse that into your campaign as something that people can work with?
You know, we have to live what we preach. People have to see in us that this is what we get. This is what there is in it. There is a real anger against the ANC. We acknowledge that. At some time, we've actually had the opportunity to apologize publicly. In areas where, you know, there has been faith in the ANC, they've accepted that apology. In areas they've said, you just bugger off. But we've got to understand that our people are angry, and they're angry for the right reasons. We're doing all we can to make sure that we appease them in some way and say, we understand, we might have taken too long, but we're here now for you. We want you to come and help us do it better. Without you, we will not be able to reach that goal.
Minister, we've got 3 more minutes left. I'd like you to focus on the last question around whether you will consider young people who are not part of the ANC but who are skilled, whether you would use them, your view on cadre deployment essentially.
Yes. Actually, there had been a question earlier on which I wanted to respond to, which is tied to that. In my time in defense, I had come up with an idea of having a national cadet not for military training, but to have national service, because in that way you're able to take in the youth and provide them with some kind of skill, attach them to each department, because otherwise we have this rampant disillusionment from the youth. They get into drugs, they do all of these antisocial things. So my intention would be to ensure that there is a core of youth that are apprenticed to government, and that has nothing to do with ANC membership or anything like that. We want professional governance in government. One of the biggest problems we have is we do not have a government that has the kind of governance ethics that will take us to the next step. We've got to clean out our government. We've got to make sure that we have an efficient government, a government that is responsive to our people, a government that understands government functions, and all of those things that would make us truly a great nation. It is possible in our time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much. This is our first presidential candidate, and of course we have come to the end of our town hall. Thank you so very much, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, for making yourself available. Also our amazing audience, and of course all our listeners who've been listening on all the platforms via Twitter, SMS. Our next presidential candidate is Dr. Zweli Mkhize. He will be joining us next Tuesday with our second town hall, and we will announce all the candidates as they come through and respond to our invites. But I do want to congratulate you for taking this campaign so seriously. It's a great departure from the way in which the ANC has traditionally done things. I'm not sure if you are getting some notes from the British Labour Party, where Jeremy Corbyn used young people in the party to make such great strides. But well done, and thank you very much for participating. It's just gone 10 o'clock. It's time for EWN News.